Welcome back to another episode of the only show I know that you can watch me ride around on 92 cubic inches of American muscle through some of the most beautiful places on God's green earth while we read the Bible together. This is Wrenchin' and Riding TV. Today we're going to start off in the NIV study Bible, going over Abel and then Cain, and we'll see where we're at with time. Starting off with Abel. So Abel was the second child born into the world, but the first one to obey God. All we know about this man is that his parents were Adam and Eve. He was a shepherd. He presented pleasing sacrifices to God, and his short life was ended at the hands of his jealous older brother Cain. The Bible doesn't tell us why God liked Abel's gift and disliked Cain's. But both Cain and Abel knew what God expected. Only Abel obeyed. Throughout history, Abel is remembered for his obedience and faith, and he is called righteous. The Bible is filled with God's general guidance and expectations for our lives. It is also filled with more specific directions. Like Abel, we must obey regardless of the cost and trust God to make things right. His strengths and accomplishments. He's the first member of the Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11. First shepherd. First martyr for truth, Matthew 23 and 35. Lessons from his life. God hears those who come to him. God recognizes the innocent person and sooner or later punishes the guilty. His vital statistics. He was born just outside of Eden. His occupation, shepherd. Relatives, parents, Adam and Eve, brother Cain. Now we're going to go over to Cain. In spite of parents' efforts and worries, conflicts between children in a family seem inevitable. Sibling relationships allow both competition and cooperation in most cases. The mixture of loving and fighting eventually creates a strong bond between brothers and sisters. It isn't unusual, though, to hear a parent say, "They fight so much, I hope they don't kill each other before they grow up." In Cain's case, the troubling potential became very tragic. And while we don't know many details of this first child's life, his story can still teach us. Cain got angry, furious. Both he and his brother Abel had made sacrifices to God, and his had been rejected. Cain's reaction gives us a clue that his attitude was probably wrong from the start. Cain had a choice to make. He could correct his attitude about his sacrifice to God, or he could take out his anger on his brother. His decision is a clear reminder of how often we are aware of opposite choices, yet choose the wrong, just as Cain did. We may not be choosing to murder, but we are still intentionally choosing what we shouldn't. The feelings motivating our behavior can't always be changed by simple thought power. But here we can begin to experience God's willingness to help, asking for his help, to do what is right. can prevent us from setting in motion actions that we will later regret. So Cain's strengths and accomplishments. The first human child. He's the first to follow in father's profession of farming. His weakness and mistakes. When disappointed, he reacted in anger. Took the negative option even when positive possibility was offered. Was the first murderer. Lessons from his life. Anger is not necessarily a sin, but actions motivated by anger can be sinful. Anger should be the energy behind good action, not evil action. When we offer God, what we offer to God must be from the heart, the best we are and have. The consequence of sin may last a lifetime. His vital statistics: he was born near Eden, which was probably located in present-day Iraq or Iran. Occupation: farmer, then wanderer. His relatives are his parents, Adam and Eve, brothers, Abel, Seth, and others not mentioned by name. So that is our look into Abel and Cain. And I want to jump back into the King James again and get back to Enoch, where I left off on the last episode. Okay. Enoch walked with God. The phrase replaced the word lived in the other genealogies of the chapter and reminds us that there is a difference between walking and merely living. And that is so true. Being alive does not mean that you're walking with God. Just like going and being a pew warmer does not mean that you're walking with God. There's a difference between knowing about God and actually knowing God. And that is pretty cool. Okay? And he was not, for God took him. The phrase replaces "and he died" in the other genealogies of the chapter, like Elijah, who was taken to heaven. Enoch was taken away to the presence of God without experiencing death. Lamech, the seventh from Adam in the genealogy of Cain, was evil personified. But Enoch, also the seventh from Adam in the genealogy of Seth, had this testimony that and by my count, only 2 people in the Bible actually experienced walking with God versus actually having to go through death. I'm going to go into a short spiel here about the Bible on marriage. This is fascinating stuff, and this came out of the NIV study notes. It sends you around to all the different places. We'll start in Genesis 2 and 18. The Lord God said, "It is not good that a man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him." That actually came right out of the NIV. That's why it's worded a little different. And 19, out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. So Adam gave names to all the cattle, to all the birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed it up in its flesh in its place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken out of man, he made into woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, and the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." So it might sound a little different than out of the King James, and it's because it came out of the NIV, but there's more. Genesis 2:18 through 24 recap. God's creative work wasn't finished until he made a woman. He could have made her from the dust of the ground, just as he made man. God chose, however, to make her from flesh and bone. In doing so, he illustrated for us that in marriage, man and woman symbolize exactly become one flesh. This is a real union of the copious heart and lies. Throughout the Bible, God treats the special partnership seriously. That was out of the study notes. I can't read my own writing here. Don't put the carriage before the horse. So if you are married or planning on becoming married, or you're willing to keep the commitment, that makes the two of you one. The goal in marriage should be more than friendship. It should be oneness. Okay? It's more than being friends. God gave marriage as a gift to Adam and Eve. It is your license to have sex and so much more. The basics of marriage: the man leaves his parents and basically becomes one with his wife. You're joined with her. So then we go to Genesis 24:58. Then they called Rebekah and said to her, "Oh, we're not there yet." So I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so I'm going to hold off on that part. But we got through the Adam and Eve part of marriage, and as we go further, I think I'll touch on their other parts. And I'm almost out of time today anyway, so that is basically going to do it for this show. Thank you for tuning in, and if you like to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to get notifications when new videos are up, please do that. Hit the like button. You have a blessed day.